Coming to you live and direct from Now Valley Entertainment.
What's up, boxing fans? This is TB Boxing, back at you again. Alright, so there's a lot of things happening in the boxing world right now, and it seems like this uh, Kell Brook Errol Spence fight that's coming up in May 27th is gaining a lot of attention. A lot of people are talking about this fight. It's the biggest fight. It's taking up a lot of a space in the ether right now. Everybody's talking about this fight. It's like the biggest fight out there, it seems like right now. And it's gaining a lot of attention. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and some other things, as well. So basically, Errol Spence, has chosen the IBF route to the title, and he calls out. He's been calling out Kell Brook, and so the fight is set for May 27th. But the funny thing about that is this: do you notice that nobody else called? None of the other welterweights has called out Kell Brook or called him out. Prior to Errol Spence. It's like they call out this person, they call out that person, but no one ever called out Kell Brook. So it's very funny. I mean, you got Birdo, you got what's his name, Broner, you got uh, Thurman, you got Porter, and he lost to Brook once, but he's not even calling Brook out. You got all these guys, but none of them is calling out Kell Brook. You know, it's taking a guy like Errol Spence. Even though I think Kell Brook is going to TK him, but at least he got the guts to call out Kell Brook, and challenge him, But all the other guys, when it comes to Kell Brook, they're basically silent, Nobody has called out Kell Brook, even after even Thurman. I mean, I got a lot of respect for Thurman. One time, shout out to Keith. One time, he's not. He mentions Kell Brook, and when you listen to him talk about Kell Brook, he gives Kell Brook a lot of respect, skill wise, and he's always honest about his assessment of Kell Brook. But he doesn't, go out of his way to really call Kell Brook out. Somebody asked him after he beat. They asked him, if would he be willing to fight the winner of the Errol Spence Kell Brook fight, and he basically said, well, he kind of gave a funny answer, like, well, I'm not looking to do this right now. Maybe sometime down the line, somewhere, down here. So basically, I get the feeling that he's not really looking to fight Kell Brook anytime soon, which I don't really blame him, because I think Kell Brook could probably beat him. So another funny thing I noticed is that all of these American fighters, none of them is calling out Errol Spence. Now, you ask yourself, well, why? Why wouldn't they? I mean, Errol Spence is getting so much attention, and he's getting so much, props in the boxing game. And if I was a fighter, and I wanted to get some props and some attention, I would be thinking, well, shit, everybody's talking about this kid Errol Spence. Let me call him out and see what happened, or let me try to, let me take him on. Then I'll get the props, because they're saying this guy's the next best thing to slice bread. Okay, everybody's talking about he's the truth, and he's this and he's that. So why is it that none of these American fighters, none of these American champions are really calling him out? Or maybe not calling him out, but give him a shot. Take some of his shine. Get some of his shine. I mean, this guy's getting more shine. Errol Spence is getting more shine than most of these, most of the champions in the welterweight division. Okay, he's getting all this shine, like he's the next best thing. He's the next Floyd Mayweather. He's the next this. So if I was a welterweight champion, I'd give him a shot. I said, okay, is he this good? Let me see how good he really is. I'll give him a shot, and take some shine off of him, because. But none of them is doing it. So basically, what it looks like to me is that all of these fighters in the welterweight, the elite fighters in the welterweight, not just the champion, but the top 10, none of these guys are calling out either Kell Brook or Errol Spence. Okay? So it looks to me like they're basically, but they all of them are saying, "Oh, Kell Brook should take him. Let him, let Kell Brook should fight him. Let Kell Brook fight him." Basically, it looks to me like they're saying they want Kell Brook. These American fighters, I'm talking about the champions at the welterweight and the top 10. Those are the top 10. They're basically looking for Kell Brook to give them the blueprint to beating Errol Spence. That's what I think. Okay, I think they're looking. None of them want to fight. None of them want to fight Errol Spence themselves. But they tell you, well, Kell Brook is ducking Errol Spence. Kell Brook is not ducking Errol Spence. Kell Brook is looking for bigger fights. Okay, with bigger money. Okay, but he's gonna fight Errol Spence, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen. But I really believe that these boxers, in welterweight guys, and even some of those junior middleweight guys are looking for Kell Brook to give them the blueprint to beat Errol Spence. That's what I think. So there it is. Let me know what you think about that. So he is gonna fight Kell Brook, and like I said, before in my videos, Kell Brook is gonna TKO him. I really believe that because although Errol Spence, a good kid, like I said in my previous video, I like him a lot. He's a nice kid, very nice guy, very nice young man. Okay, level-headed, respectable. Okay. Oh yeah, and by the way, I just want to put in a little fact here that I just found out recently. I didn't know well, I knew that Kell Brook's father is Jamaican, and so is Errol Spence's father. So they're both second generation Jamaicans, they're both from Jamaican parentage, which is pretty interesting. I didn't know that. Shout out to both Kell Brook and Errol Spence. Yeah, so basically it's duck season. A lot of people, not only they're ducking Errol Spence, but they're ducking Kell Brook. So basically, the two most duck fighters in the welterweight division is Kell Brook and Errol Spence. And they're going to be fighting each other because everybody else is ducking both of them. Okay, isn't that's kind of funny, So that's pretty interesting, So, again, this fight has been one of the most talked about upcoming fights I've ever seen in the boxing game right now, and everybody have their opinion. Most people, especially most Americans, are looking, to say that Errol Spence, is gonna. They even say he's gonna stop Kell Brook. Okay, but again, like I said, I don't really see that. I mean, I don't see someone that's beating up a 140 pounder like Algieri and a 40-year-old guy like Bundu. I don't really see that as being preparation to fight someone like Kell Brook. Not to say that Algieri is not a good fighter. He's a good fighter, and he fought Provodnikov and he fought a good fight. And I couldn't figure out why he fought Kell Brook the way he fought. I mean, not excuse me. He fought Errol Spence the way he did, like standing right in front of Errol Spence. I couldn't figure it out. But recently, I heard why that happened. He said that he had hurt. He got hurt. He had some hurt. He couldn't really move the way he wanted to move. He said basically that he fought the fight that Errol Spence wanted him to fight. He tried to stay in front of Errol Spence because he couldn't really do too much movement. So which was a mystery to me why he didn't move. So now I know why he didn't move. He couldn't. So that's why he stood there in front of Errol Spence and got his lights punched out. And which was a bad strategy. So, but even during the fight, even though he didn't move, he should have used his jab a lot more, which he didn't really do. But I guess it's hard to jab somebody when they're pounding you. You know what I'm saying? So I guess he just figured he'd try to punch with him, but like he said himself, he found that Errol Spence was much too strong for him, so he couldn't really punch with him either. So he basically, was a lose-lose situation. He was going to lose no matter what he did, and so it is what it is. So Errol Spence basically took his lunch, and knocked him out. So it is what it is. But I mean, again, uh, it was an impressive knockout. But again, it's not hard to knock somebody out that can't really, that you can overpower and steamroll, which is what he did. He basically steamrolled Algeria, and he basically kind of did the same thing to Bundu, and again, he did the same thing to most of his fighters, most of his fights, So I don't really see that as any kind of preparation to be fighting uh, 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 Book, fighting Kell Brook. Now, watching, some of these boxing channels, and I would notice one particular guy out there, what's his name, T Street Controversy or something like that. Uh, this guy is really, really something else. I mean, this guy, he puts up this thing about Kell's book record, Kell Brook's record. He's like, oh, Kell Brook, he had a fight. Let's look at his record. He had these fights. Guy had 180 losses and 200 losses, and he's fighting guy with these kind of losses. So I said to myself, really? Let me. And so he went on. Then he went to the box rec, and he showed that Kell Brook, in Kell Brook's first fight, he fought a guy with 189 losses, right? And then he goes to Spence box rec, and he showed he didn't start off with Spence first fight. He went all the way up to Spence 10th fight and said, "Oh, his record, he fought a guy 16-3 or something like that." I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact number, but something like he said 11-2 or 11-3. So hell, so we see that Spence is fighting a guy with 11-3, and we see Book, he fighting a guy with 189. So I'm like, let me go and check this out for myself. Okay, so I go to box rec, right? Like he kept saying, oh, something is wrong with this record and this and that, and like he's trying to make it seem like Spence is fighting all these, guys with good records, and Book is fighting, bums with 200 losses and 300 losses and this type of thing. So I said, okay, let me go and take a look at this box rec and see what this guy is really talking about, right? So I go to box rec and I look, and I see in Spence's first fight, excuse me, Book, his first fight, his debut as a professional, he fought a guy with 31 wins, 189 losses, and 10 draws. You hear that? Did you hear what I just said? 31 wins, 189 losses, and 10 draws. This guy fought, Nassim Hamed, all these different champions, like about 10 different champions, all right? So I'm like, wow, that's then let me go check out Spence's first fight. So I go to Spence's first fight, and I see that Spence, in his first, his debut as a professional, he fought a guy with 3 wins, 3 losses, no draws. So in total, he's fighting somebody with 6 professional fights in his debut fight. Okay, the guy, lost as many as he won. So 6 total fights altogether. So you're trying to tell me that you're comparing a guy in the debut fight who fought a guy with 6 total fights against a guy like that Book fought, where he fought a guy with over 200 professional fights in his debut. Can you imagine? Who puts their fighter in with a guy with 200 professional fights? With over, not 200, but over 200 professional fights in a debut fight. Nobody does that. Okay? So here we have Book fighting a guy with over 200, almost 250 professional fights in his debut. And then we have Spence, who fought a guy with 6 professional fights. Who you think fought the better opponent? Who is a better? I mean, a guy with over 200 professional fights, or a guy with 6 professional fights? So I mean, it's when I look at that and I say to myself, what is this guy talking about? I mean, obviously, Spence, took the traditional route, which is, like I said, typically when you have a guy in his first fight, he usually fights somebody with very few fights, okay, with no wins most of the time, or 0 wins and maybe 3, 4 losses, just another amateur like himself. But here we see that Brook went in there, he had no wins, no losses, okay, 0 fights, but he fought a guy with over 200 fights in his first defense, in his first fight, his debut as a pro. He fought a guy with over 200 fights. I don't care how many losses the guy had. He had over 200 professional fights. This guy's a veteran. The guy was, I believe, 30-something years old. And Brook was like 17 or 18. Okay? So, I mean, come on, people. Let's T Street, get your shit together, man. What are you talking about, man? How are you going to knock a guy for fighting someone with over 200 professional fights in their debut? But you're going to big up a guy who fought, like Spence, who fought a guy with only 6 professional fights in his debut fight. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So it is what it is. So, the fight is coming up, like I said, and, my prediction is that, Spence is going to get TKO'd around the 7th, 8th, or 9th round. That's what my prediction is. Spence, has a lot of good potential as a welterweight, in the future, but right now I just don't think that he's ready for a guy like Brook. But we're gonna see on May 27th, and it should be an interesting fight. I mean, we just have to see. All right, let's talk about. There's another fight coming up that should be pretty interesting. Diaz versus Crawford. I think Crawford comes to welterweight to fight Diaz. Felix Diaz should be a good fight, but I think that Diaz is gonna lose. He's gonna get stopped by Crawford. I just don't see. I watched Diaz a couple of fights, and he's an Olympian. He's okay, pretty good, but I just don't think that he has the skills to defeat a guy like Crawford. The funny thing about Crawford is this. I respect him a lot because the guy is very, very good. I mean, he's a beast in the ring. And the funny thing, I mean, he seems to fight as much left-handed as he do right-handed, which is very strange. I mean, I know a guy that can switch back and forth. Like Brook does it, and Jacob does it. Switch to southpaw. I mean, Brook does it more than Jacobs. But I've never seen a guy who switched to southpaw so much, who actually fight as a southpaw in the ring, like almost the whole fight. Sometimes he's fighting as a southpaw. Which makes me think that this guy is neither right-handed or left-handed. I believe that he's ambidextrous, meaning that, he's neither right or left-handed. He just, he's balanced on both hands. Either he's ambidextrous or he's just been trained, highly trained to fight as a lefty, which is very unusual. But it helps him a lot in the ring because it's very confusing because sometimes you come in there, it's like you're fighting a lefty, and then he switch to righty, and then sometimes you come in there and he fights a righty. So it's like, you don't know what to expect when you go in there against this guy. So, it's very effective, it seems to me. And he seems like he can punch as hard with the left hand as he can with the right hand. Very strange. I mean, but very effective. And, I really appreciate that because it makes him a much better fighter. And he used it to the advantage a lot. And so I don't really see Diaz giving him any trouble at all. I think he's going to knock Diaz out, TKO him, stop him, or knock him out. That's what I think. So that should be an easy money fight for him. I don't think Diaz is going to give him too much trouble. So I think that I don't think there's very many people, at the welterweight who can give Crawford any trouble. Okay, I think he'll beat most of the welterweights out there. Okay, the only guy that I see giving Crawford too much any trouble, is probably a guy like Kell Brook, Keith Thurman. You know, I don't know about Errol Spence. I mean, you know, uh, I mean, technically Errol Spence should be able to give him some trouble. But again, the thing about Errol Spence is that I just haven't seen him fight anybody to really be able to judge, you know, where he's really at, okay, as a fighter. I mean, a lot of people give him accolades, but again, I just have to see him fight some more welterweights first, some top welterweights. I want to see him fight some top competition before, and that's why I keep telling people that I don't think he's gonna be able to beat Book because he hasn't really fought anybody that to really gauge where he's at, and the people that he has fought so far, you know, you know, 140 pounder like Algeria and a older guy like Bundu, and the other guy he fought wasn't really anything. So except for maybe Larty, the pretty good fighter, and Larty went the distance with him. So he beat Larty convincingly, but Larty still went the distance and hurt him once. So it's hard to really gauge where Harold Spence is right now. Based on the hype. Everybody's hyping him up and saying and most of the hype I think comes from the fact that you know he uh he sparred with Boulder and Mayweather. Which I mean to me that's not really anything to I mean that's sparring. Sparring and fighting is not the same. So I'd have to see him fight, like I said, some more. I want to see him fight people like you know. Sean Porter, okay? Like him and Sean Porter would be a good fight, I believe, but I don't think, Sean Porter is in any rush to fight him, I mean, it's funny, yeah, these guys out there, like, for example, when they asked Sean Porter about, Sean Porter's father, his daddy, about fighting Errol Spence, they said that, Errol Spence wasn't ready for, they're on a different level than Errol Spence, okay? But yet still, they're saying Errol Spence is not ready for them yet, okay? That he need to fight more people first. But he's the best thing since sliced bread. He's ready to fight Book, but he's not ready to fight Porter, who Book beat. So it's kind of strange. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. So it just shows me that a lot of these guys, they accuse Book of ducking Spence, but they're ducking Spence themselves. They don't seem to want to fight him for some reason. He's a big guy, so I don't really. I guess you can, I can see the reason why they would have, some reluctance about fighting a guy like him, and he seems to be a strong kid, and But again, uh, to me, he hasn't been proven yet. So, if I was a welterweight, I'd definitely fight him and test out where he's at. But these guys are doing everything, you know, uh, but fighting him. So I don't see anybody really, giving him a shot. For on this side, uh, Keith Thurman said the same thing. That he's not ready yet to fight him. That he needs to fight some more fights first. Which I mean, I kind of agree with him on to a certain degree because to me, before he can fight Thurman, he should fight somebody like maybe, uh, a great fight for him would be Sean Porter. You know, that's the natural fight I would think for Errol Spence. Right now would be to fight Sean Porter, and then after he fights Sean Porter, if he wins, then he'd be in a position, to fight maybe Keith Thurman or Kell Brook, you know. But for some reason the IBF made him the mandatory to fight Book, which I mean I don't understand that, but it is what it is. You'd think that that he will have to fight some other welterweight first, like maybe Birdo, Porter, somebody like who else you got out there? Thurman, you know, uh, Guerrera, somebody else, somebody in the top 10, okay, before he fights, you know, a Brook or a Thurman, you know. But, everybody is, seems, like I said, seems to be ducking him, but they're pushing him to, they pushing him to go and fight Kell Brook. They tell you he's going to do this and he's going to do that. I mean, so if he's good enough to fight Kell Brook and destroy Kell Brook and stop Kell Brook, the very guy who none of these welterweights are challenging or calling out, so why is he not good enough to fight, a Sean Porter, or even a Keith Thurman, or a Garcia, or a Alberto, But, for some reason he has to go all the way to England to fight against Kell Brook because nobody in the American welterweights want to fight him, or even giving him a shot. So but you know, but even somebody like Bradley. But what I noticed is that I do know that he was ranked in the WBC, okay, which is one of the belts that Thurman have. But I think he was ranked up, way up there, as a matter of fact, number 3 or number 2 or something like that. But they dropped him because of the vital testing. They dropped him and they dropped, I think they dropped him and Bradley. But then Bradley took the test. Bradley signed him for vital, so he's back in the rankings. But Errol never took the test, and so they never brought him back into the WBC rankings. So, it is what it is. So, I guess, we got to wait until May 27th to see what's going to happen. I'm looking forward to the fight, Again, my prediction, TKO by Brook, somewhere around the 7th, 8th, or 9th round, and that's what I think it's going to be. Now, if by some miracle, Spence actually win that fight, which is, then we can say, well, yeah, this guy has arrived, because if he can beat Kell Brook, it's going to show you that he's really as good as people say he is, or close to it. Okay, so, that's what I think, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think Kell Brook is going to TKO him. He's going to probably give him a boxing lesson, because as far as I can see, from the fights that I've seen him fight so far, he seems to be very hittable. His defense is not the best, and I don't think his chin is the best either. So I think we're gonna see him get hit, and we're gonna see him get hurt. Uh, Anything could happen, but that's what I think is gonna happen. Because like I said, I don't think his defense is the best, and I think it's easy to hit guys who can't really hurt you. Like I mean, we know that there's no way that Algeria can hurt a big guy like Spence, and Bundu was a guy 40 plus, so I mean, those guys, Herden, Van Herden. I mean, these guys. I don't think Van Herden, this guy didn't really was even really amateur, or I don't know. He wasn't a guy like you saw the fight. The guy looked like he wasn't even in shape. Like he probably took the fight at a moment's notice. So I don't think he trained very well for that fight. And like I said, in the Algeria fight, Algeria himself said that he wasn't really 100% for that fight. He couldn't really move like he wanted to, and I wondered why he wasn't moving in that fight. Because he's a guy that moves around. He has good movement. He's a very good. He could move around the ring pretty good, and like he did with Vodnikov. I would think that's what he would have done with Errol Spence, but he didn't do that at all. He just stood in front of him and just got knocked out. Which was strange. So at any rate, the Kell Brook fight is on. We're gonna see it. It's gonna be a good fight, I believe, and everybody's looking forward to it. So am I, and we'll see what happens. So until then, this is TBE Boxing signing off, and we'll see you on the next one.